Okay, St. Martins, I have seen and heard the requests for the story of what happened on Sunday. And so since September 9th is International Buy a Priest a Beer Day, I thought that I would share a worship story that's actually equally good when you're talking about church or having a beer and laughing with friends. This past Sunday, as we arrived for outside church, for the 8 o'clock service, there was quite a commotion because people were looking up at the church steeple and they were seeing this beautiful and humongous red-tailed hawk. Now those who are St. Martin's members, you can go to Anna James's Facebook page and see the hawk that I'm talking about. There was this beautiful, majestic hawk, and it was standing on top of the cross in the church. Or on top of the cross, not in the church, on top of the cross that's on the steeple. And while it was standing there, it just was posing. It was glorious. It made me proud to be at St. Martin's. It made me feel patriotic. It made me feel all sorts of things. I heard somebody in the congregation that was gathered on the point say, it feels like God is here. And it felt that way. It felt that way. Well, with the red-tailed hawk's presence, we began church. And church was going pretty smoothly. In fact, it was going very smoothly. The sound system was working. Everything about outside worship that day was working. So we're going along, and it gets to the point where Caitlin begins to preach. And she actually preached a really great sermon on Sunday. And so go to our YouTube page and see it if you want. And listen to it. It was a very good sermon. But as she is preaching, Denise, my wife, who was sitting in the back, said that she noticed that the hawk cocked its head and zeroed in on something. And then it proceeded to fly into a tree that was right over our worship space. And while it was in this tree, it decided to take out and eat an entire family of squirrels right above where all the church is sitting. I mean, literally right above it, 150 feet. It's a huge pine tree, but it was right above where the congregation was. And so you could hear it happening in the tree, and it was sort of sounded like squirrels fighting, and Caitlin couldn't see what was going on. And so as she made a comment about, well, see, some people have a really hard time getting along in community. Well, it was more than that was going on, but she couldn't see it. And when she could see it, she saw it when one of the squirrels, in an attempt to flee for its life, jumped from the top of this pine tree into our gathered congregation and landed. It landed with a thud. It was like thud. So it lands with a thud in the congregation and is running around like kind of dazed, because that's a heck of a jump. Running around kind of dazed in circles. And some people kind of see it and some people don't. Some people are looking at Caitlin, some people are looking at the squirrels, some people are looking at the tree. It was very confusing. Some people were pretending that nothing was going on, like maybe it would go away if we just pretend like it's not happening. And so there was all sorts of things going on. Meanwhile, Caitlin was trying to keep things rolling, and she did an awesome job of that. Anyhow, said squirrel then kind of scampers off and then comes back, and it finds a place to rest under a worship attendee's skirt. She was wearing this billowy skirt and sitting on a lawn chair, and so the squirrel went under this person's skirt. And at this point, again, Denise, she's seen what's happened, and now we have this conflict going on, because with social distancing and physical distancing in church and everything else and the rules of staying 6 feet apart, I mean, that's all well and good until a squirrel winds up underneath somebody's skirt, in which case, like, something's got to be done. And so I saw Denise make sure her mask was on properly, and she worked her way very discreetly from the back of the squares where we were all sitting to where this person was sitting, and where she had to whisper, ma'am, there is a squirrel in your skirt. Which is not your everyday church conversation. I'm just going to put that out there. At which point, said person had to jump up out of their seat for obvious reasons. We tried to keep it discreet, but there's only so much you can do when a squirrel's hiding underneath your dress and skirt and in there. And meanwhile, the church service is still going on. This is followed by some more movement in the trees. At which point, we think everything is over. A second squirrel jumped out of the tree and landed within a foot of our parishioner Ann Barton. And so you can ask her about how she felt with a squirrel landing right next to her. It was by far the most exciting church service I've ever been a part of. And I think it's all the more reason to come to Outside Church, because nature's going to happen. So is worship. And this story is going to make it into St. Martin's folklore. And so the time that two squirrels visited us from church, or visited us at church, while a red-tailed hawk ate their kinfolk. And with that, I'm going to go enjoy pints with priests.